Rain came down in hard sheets, turning the sidewalk into a mirror that reflected neon and misery with equal honesty. The kind of rain that soaked you through in seconds and made the city feel like it was trying to wash itself clean, even though it never could. Grant Hargrove stood under the edge of a luxury hotel canopy with his hands in his pockets, and his jaw locked so tight his teeth ached. He was the kind of man who used to arrive in silence, shielded by tinted glass and security teams that moved like walls. Tonight, he had arrived alone, wearing a dark overcoat with no logo, no entourage, and no certainty. Across the street, a small figure hovered near the curb, half hidden behind a lamppost. A boy, maybe 15, thin enough that his hoodie hung like it belonged to someone else. Water ran off the boy's sleeves in streams. His shoes looked too worn for this weather. His face was smudged with the kind of dirt that did not come from a single bad day. It came from a life where sleep happened wherever it could, and safety was something you borrowed by staying invisible. Grant noticed the boy because the boy was staring at him, not with begging eyes, not with the rehearsed expression people wore when they wanted money, but with something sharper, watchfulness, calculation, almost anger, as if Grant had done something personal to him, even though they had never met. Grant looked away at first, instinctively. He had trained himself to look away from human need, not because he thought he was cruel, but because he believed attention was a leak, a crack, a weakness. And weakness was expensive. Then the boy stepped off the curb and walked directly toward him. Grant's body tensed, every lesson in risk management firing at once. He scanned the street for threats, for accomplices, for cameras. A few cars passed, headlights cutting through rain. The hotel doorman shifted, observing. A couple under an umbrella hurried by without looking up. The city was too busy to care. The boy stopped a few feet away, close enough that Grant could see the tremble in his hands, close enough that Grant could smell the cheap cigarette smoke clinging to his clothes. The boy held out a paper-wrapped bundle, shielding it from rain with his own body like it mattered. "Eat," the boy said. Grant blinked. "What?" he replied, voice low, wary. "Eat," the boy repeated, louder this time, impatient. He pushed the bundle forward again. Grant stared at it. The smell hit him first. French fries, hot, oversalted, greasy in the way that made your stomach feel temporarily safe. Grant's mouth went dry. He had eaten in rooms where the plates looked like art and the portions were small enough to be insulting. This smelled like survival, like someone had used their last few dollars to buy something warm. "Why?" Grant asked. The boy's eyes narrowed. "Because you look like you forgot how," he said. Grant let out a quiet breath that almost became a laugh, but stopped. Humor felt inappropriate in the rain, in the boy's stare, in the fact that Grant had not eaten since morning and could not remember the last time someone offered him something without wanting something back. Grant did not take the fries immediately. He looked at the boy's face again. There was a bruise at the edge of his jaw, fresh. His lip looked split. Grant's gaze hardened. "Who did that?" he asked. The boy's expression turned flat. "The world," he said. "Eat." Grant hesitated one more beat and reached out and took the bundle. The boy watched him like a guard dog, daring him to reject it. Grant unwrapped the paper and lifted a fry to his mouth. He expected grease. He expected salt. He expected the simple comfort of junk food. He did not expect his throat to tighten so sharply that swallowing hurt, because the fry did not taste like food. It tasted like something he had not allowed himself in years. Kindness that did not cost the giver less than it cost him. Grant chewed slowly. Rain drummed on the canopy above. The city hissed. The boy's eyes stayed fixed on him. "Better," the boy said after Grant swallowed. It was not a question. It was a verdict. Grant nodded once, unable to speak. The boy stepped back like his job was done, like the offering had been delivered, and now balance had been restored. Then a black sedan rolled to a stop near the curb. The sound of it was ordinary, but Grant's blood knew better. A car that stopped that smoothly, that quietly, that close, in the rain, was not a coincidence. It was intent. Grant's head lifted. His whole body went still. The hotel doorman stiffened too, sensing danger even without understanding it. The sedan's back door opened. Two men stepped out, both wearing dark coats that shed rain like they were built for nights like this. They did not look like police. They did not look like reporters. They looked like the kind of men who made problems disappear and called it service. Grant recognized the type immediately, and the recognition was not new. It was old. It was familiar. It was family. The boy noticed them too. His posture changed instantly, shoulders tightening, hands balling. He moved half a step sideways, like he was positioning himself between Grant and the men. Grant's voice came out low. "Go," he told the boy. The boy's jaw tightened. "No," he said. Grant turned his head slightly. "You do not want this," Grant said, urgency leaking through control. The boy's eyes flashed. "Neither do you," he snapped. The men approached, calm and sure, moving through rain like it was scenery. Grant's mind ran fast. He had no security, no car, no safe room. This was not a boardroom ambush. It was street level, personal, messy. One of the men smiled politely, as if greeting an old colleague. Hargrove," the man said. Grant did not return the smile. "What do you want?" Grant asked. The man's smile stayed in place. "To bring you home," he replied. Grant's chest tightened. Home. The word tasted like poison. Home was where Malcolm Hargrove controlled everything. Home was where Grant had learned that love was leverage and loyalty was a weapon. "I am not going," Grant said. The second man shifted slightly, impatient. His hand hovered near his pocket. The boy saw it. Grant saw it. The boy moved suddenly, stepping forward with a kind of reckless courage that belonged to kids who had never been protected by anyone else. "Back off," the boy said. The first man looked down at him like he was an insect that had spoken. "Move," the man said, voice cold. The boy's chin lifted. "No," he repeated, and his voice did not shake. Grant's heart slammed. The boy was going to get hurt. Grant knew it with absolute certainty. These men did not care about witnesses. Not in the rain. Not in a city that forgot fast. Grant stepped forward, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder, firm. "Go," Grant said again, sharper. "Now." The boy's eyes snapped to Grant's face, furious and confused. Grant leaned closer, voice low enough that only the boy could hear. "If they touch you, I will never forgive myself," Grant said. The boy's expression flickered for half a second, something young breaking through the hard. Then it vanished again behind anger. The first man's smile faded. "Enough," he said. He reached out. Grant reacted without thinking. He shoved the boy backward, hard enough to send him stumbling into the doorman's arms. Then Grant stepped forward into the space the boy had occupied. "Take me?" Grant said. The man's eyes narrowed. "Gladly," he replied. The second man moved fast. Grant felt hands on him, gripping his arms, twisting. His shoulder flared with pain. He did not fight like a trained fighter. He fought like a man refusing to be taken quietly. He heard the boy shouting behind him, a raw sound. He heard the doorman calling for help. He heard someone's phone start recording. Grant looked up and saw a security camera above the canopy, blinking. Good, he thought wildly. See this, remember this. Then his head snapped sideways as the second man struck him with something hard. Pain exploded behind his eyes. The rain blurred into streaks of light. His knees buckled. Grant tasted blood. The first man leaned close, voice like a whisper, meant only for Grant. "You should have stayed obedient," the man murmured. Grant's jaw clenched, vision swimming. "Tell Malcolm," Grant rasped. "I am done." The man's expression hardened. He signaled, and the second man dragged Grant toward the sedan. Grant's feet slipped on wet pavement. His coat dragged, his mouth filled with the metallic taste of blood and rage. Behind him, the boy broke free from the doorman and sprinted forward, a flash of soaked hoodie and fury. The boy grabbed the second man's arm and yanked, surprisingly strong for his size. "Leave him," the boy shouted. The second man shoved him hard. The boy hit the pavement, sliding on wet concrete. Grant's chest tightened violently. "Stop," Grant shouted, voice breaking. The first man glanced back, annoyed. The boy pushed himself up immediately, face contorted with pain and rage. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small rock, jagged, the kind kids kept when they had no other protection. He lifted it. The rock shook in his hand. Grant's throat tightened as he realized what the boy was willing to do. Not for money, not for fame, for a stranger who had eaten his fries. The first man's eyes narrowed, calculating. He did not like unpredictability. He did not like witnesses. He did not like trouble that drew attention. He made a quick decision. He stepped back, raised both hands slightly, as if he was the reasonable one. "Let's not do this," the man said, tone calm. The boy's rock stayed raised. Grant's vision swam. His body shook. The first man gestured subtly, and the second man released Grant's arm. Grant staggered, nearly falling. He caught himself on the canopy pole. The man's eyes held Grant's, cold. "This is not over," he said. Then he stepped back into the sedan. The second man followed. The car pulled away, disappearing into rain, like a threat that knew it could return. Grant stood shaking, blood on his lip, rain dripping from his hair. His hands trembled. His chest hurt with more than the blow. It hurt with the terrifying realization that Malcolm's reach had found him even here, even in public, even under cameras. The boy lowered the rock slowly, breathing hard. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the boy turned his face away, like he hated being seen caring. "You are trouble," he muttered. Grant swallowed. His voice came out rough. "I know," he said. The boy looked back at him sharply. "Why do they want you?" he demanded. Grant's mind flashed with boardrooms, contracts, signatures, and the moment his own empire had been ripped from his hands like it never belonged to him. "They want me quiet," Grant said. The boy's eyes narrowed. "Why?" he pressed. Grant took a slow breath, realizing there was no safe lie that would protect the boy from what he had already stepped into. The boy had touched the edge of Grant's world, and that world had teeth. "Because my brother is stealing everything," Grant said quietly, "and I finally decided not to help him." The boy stared at him for a long beat, rain running down his face, and the boy scoffed, bitter. "Billionaires always decide something after they already win," he said. Grant flinched because the boy was not entirely wrong. "I did not win," Grant said. The boy's gaze flicked over him. Bruised face, shaking hands, no security, no car. "You still have more than anyone," the boy snapped. Grant nodded slowly. "Yes," he admitted, "and I still lost the most important parts of my life." The boy's jaw tightened. "Drama," he muttered, but his eyes stayed sharp, listening. Grant forced himself to stand straighter, ignoring the ache in his head. "What is your name?" he asked. The boy hesitated, then said, "Eli." Grant repeated it softly. "Eli." Eli's eyes narrowed. "Do not say it like you own it," he snapped. Grant's mouth tightened. "I do not," he said. "I just want to remember it." Eli scoffed again, but his rock disappeared back into his pocket. His posture stayed defensive, but something had shifted. The offering of fries had been an act. The protection with a rock had been another. Eli did not understand why he had done it, and that bothered him. Grant's stomach churned. He looked down at the grease-stained paper still in his hand. The fries were half gone. He held the bundle out slightly. "Do you want the rest?" Grant asked. Eli stared at him like Grant had asked something offensive. "Those were for you," Eli said. Grant's throat tightened again. "Why?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Eli's eyes flashed with anger, but underneath it was something else, something painfully honest. "Because you looked lonely," Eli said, voice low. "And lonely people do stupid things." Grant inhaled sharply. The words landed in him with the force of truth. Lonely people do stupid things. Grant had built an empire out of loneliness. He had called it ambition. He had called it discipline. He had called it strength. It had been loneliness the whole time. Eli turned away as if the conversation was done. "Go," he muttered, "before they come back." Grant's jaw tightened. "They will come back," Grant said. Eli glanced at him, eyes hard. "Then move smarter," Eli said. "Do not stand under rich people lights where bad men can find you." Grant stared at the boy, rain still falling, city still roaring. A homeless kid was giving him tactical advice. Grant realized, in a cold, sharp moment, that the only people who might protect him now were the ones his world had trained him to ignore. And somewhere deeper inside him, something broke and shifted because he understood the cost. If he accepted help from Eli, from people like Eli, he would have to stop pretending he was untouchable. He would have to become human again. Grant took a slow breath. "Come with me," he said. Eli's head snapped toward him. "No," he said immediately. "Not home," Grant said, voice urgent. "Not my world. Somewhere safe. Somewhere you choose." Eli's eyes narrowed, suspicion thick. "Why?" he demanded. Grant's throat tightened. "Because those men will come back," Grant said. "And if they see you near me again, they will hurt you. I need to move, and I need someone who knows how to move when you have nothing." Eli stared at him, rain dripping from his lashes. "You want a homeless kid to guide you," Eli said, tone mocking. Grant nodded once. "Yes," he said. Eli's mouth twisted. He looked like he wanted to hate Grant for needing him. But Eli also looked like he understood something Grant did not. Sometimes, needing someone was the only way to stay alive. Eli exhaled, sharp. "Fine," he muttered. "But you listen. You do not argue. You do not act like a king." Grant swallowed. "Okay," he said. Eli turned and started walking. Grant followed. And as they moved into the rain, away from hotel lights, away from the old world, the city swallowed them like it swallowed everyone else. But Grant could still feel the invisible gaze of Malcolm's empire on the back of his neck. The hunt had already begun. And the first real friend Grant Hargrove had made in years was a poor kid with a split lip who had offered him fries like it was a lifeline. Eli moved through the rain like he had been born in it. He did not walk in straight lines. He did not take the brightest streets. He avoided intersections with cameras and avoided alleys that were too quiet. He chose routes that had enough people to make violence inconvenient, but not so many that attention turned into a spotlight. Grant followed half a step behind, trying to copy the rhythm. His shoes were expensive, not designed for slick pavement. His coat was heavy, the kind meant for cold boardrooms, not weather. Every few steps he felt the throb in his head from the hit near the hotel. His jaw ached. His lip tasted like blood. He did not complain. Complaining felt ridiculous beside Eli's bruises. Eli moved as if pain was a normal background noise, as if nobody cared about your injuries unless they slowed you down. Eli glanced back once and saw Grant's slight stumble. "Do not fall," Eli muttered. Grant steadied himself. "I am fine," he said. Eli snorted. "Rich people always say that right before they fall," he replied. They crossed a street as a bus hissed to a stop. The doors opened and spilled out commuters with umbrellas and tired faces. Eli blended into them for 3 seconds, then slipped away at the edge of the crowd and cut between 2 buildings. Grant followed. The city changed quickly when they left the glittering district. The lights got dimmer. The sidewalks narrowed. Storefronts were cheaper. The smell shifted from perfume and polished marble to wet cardboard and fried food. Eli walked faster. Grant's mind kept replaying the hotel canopy, the men's calm, the bruise on Eli's face, and the phrase that had been thrown like a chain around his throat, "Bring you home, home." Grant's chest tightened at the memory of his brother's last smile in the boardroom, the kind of smile that pretended to be family and was actually a knife. Grant had built Hargrove Capital with ruthless discipline and absolute certainty. He had believed that being the smartest man in the room meant he controlled the room. He had believed that money was a shield. But the board vote had proved something else. Control was not a shield when the people who shared your blood were willing to rewrite the rules. Malcolm Hargrove had stood at the far end of the long table, hands folded, eyes calm, and said, with a voice smooth enough to sound merciful, that Grant's removal was temporary, a necessary stabilizing measure for the good of the company, for the good of the family name. Then Malcolm had slid a folder across the table. Emergency clause, triggered by behavioral instability and risk to stakeholder confidence. Grant had stared at the words like they belonged to a stranger. He had not been unstable. He had been furious. He had been betrayed. He had demanded transparency about a series of transfers he had found in the company's real estate arm, transfers that looked like laundering wrapped in corporate polish. He had demanded to know why their father's trust was suddenly being restructured by Malcolm's attorneys. Malcolm had smiled and said Grant was stressed. Grant needed rest. Grant was not himself. Then men in suits had voted, hands lifting like a slow execution. And just like that, the empire Grant built had turned into a machine designed to crush him. Eli's voice snapped him back to the present. "Stop thinking loud," Eli said. Grant blinked. "What?" he asked. Eli glanced back. "Your face is loud," he said. "You look like you are about to scream or cry. Both are stupid in the rain." Grant swallowed hard. "I am not," he said. Eli's eyes narrowed. "You are," Eli replied, then kept walking. Grant looked down at the puddles and forced his breathing to slow. He tried to focus on practical questions. Where were they going? How far? Who did Eli trust? The answer to the last question was probably no one. They turned into an underpass where traffic roared above them. Concrete pillars rose like gray bones. The smell of damp and exhaust hung heavy. A small fire burned in a metal drum farther down, casting warm light that made the shadows look even darker. Grant's body tensed. 3 men stood near the fire. One was old, wrapped in layers, leaning on a cane that looked more like a weapon than support. Another was broad-shouldered, arms crossed, watching the entrance to the underpass like a guard. A woman stood near a pile of blankets, her posture rigid, face sharp. She looked like she had learned how to survive by deciding she would not be soft for anyone. When Eli stepped into the firelight, the woman's eyes cut to him immediately. "Eli," she said, voice tight. "Where were you?" Eli's chin lifted. "Busy," he muttered. The woman's gaze snapped to Grant, and her expression hardened instantly. "Who is that?" she demanded. Eli did not answer right away. He looked at Grant like he was deciding if Grant deserved the truth. "He is trouble," Eli said finally. The woman's eyes narrowed. "That is not a name," she replied. Grant stepped forward slightly, then stopped when the broad-shouldered man shifted, posture protected. Grant raised his hands to show he was not a threat. "Grant," he said, voice low. "Grant Hargrove." The name hit the underpass like a rock. The broad-shouldered man's eyes widened. The old man's gaze sharpened. The woman's face twisted into something between recognition and disgust. "You," she said. Grant swallowed. "Yes," he replied. The woman took a step forward, rain dripping from her hair. "The billionaire," she said, as if the word itself tasted dirty. "The one all over the news." Grant did not deny it. Eli's voice came out impatient. "They were going to grab him," he said. "He ate fries. Then they tried to take him. I stopped it." The woman stared at Eli, stunned. "You stopped it," she repeated. Eli's jaw tightened. "I tried," he said. "It worked enough." The broad-shouldered man looked at Grant with cold assessment. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice flat. Grant took a slow breath. He could feel how absurd he looked standing there, in expensive shoes under a bridge, bleeding slightly, asking for safety from people the city tried to forget. "Because my brother is trying to silence me," Grant said. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Why?" she demanded. Grant hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Because I found proof he is stealing from the trust and laundering through redevelopment projects," he said. "And I refused to pretend it was normal." The old man by the fire let out a short laugh, humorless. "Rich men stealing from other rich men," he said. "How tragic." Grant flinched. He deserved the sarcasm. Then the old man's eyes sharpened. "But you said trust," the old man continued. "You said laundering." Grant nodded. "Yes," he said. The old man's voice turned lower, more serious. "That kind of money touches people like us," he said, nodding toward the blankets. "It pushes them out. It buys cops. It buys silence." Grant swallowed. "I know," he said quietly. The woman's gaze burned. "Do you?" she snapped. "Or did you just learn it when it happened to you?" Grant felt the truth of her accusation, like a slap. "I learned it late," Grant admitted. "But I learned it." Eli crossed his arms, annoyed. "Can he stay or not?" he demanded. The broad-shouldered man looked to the old man, as if the old man made final calls. The old man studied Grant for a long beat. "Name," the old man said. Grant frowned. "I said it." he replied. The old man shook his head. Not your rich name, he said. Your real name. The one you carry when money is gone? Grant's throat tightened. He did not know how to answer. The woman scoffed. He does not have one, she said. Grant's jaw clenched. Grant, he repeated. That is my name. The old man watched him. Then listen, Grant, he said, voice calm. This place does not do charity. We do survival. If you bring heat, you bring it away from the kids. You understand, Grant nodded. Yes, he said. The old man leaned forward slightly, face lined, eyes sharp. And if you lie, he continued, we will leave you in the rain. Grant swallowed. I will not lie, he said. The old man nodded once. Good, he said. I am Bishop. Grant blinked. Bishop, he repeated. Bishop gestured with his cane toward the woman. That is Rosa, he said. She runs the shelter down the street, keeps people alive, keeps them fed, keeps them from freezing. Rosa's eyes stayed hard. I do not run anything, she said. I manage chaos. Bishop gestured toward the broad-shouldered man. That is Mason, Bishop said. He watches. Mason did not smile. He simply stared at Grant like a guard at a gate. Grant glanced at Eli. You live here? Grant asked, voice low. Eli's eyes flashed. Sometimes, he said. Do not say it like you feel sorry. Grant nodded. I am not, he said. He did feel sorry, but he knew pity would insult Eli more than any curse. Rosa's voice cut in again. Why should we risk anything for you? She demanded. You people build towers that throw us out. You call it progress. Grant's chest tightened. You are right, he said. Rosa stared. That is it, she snapped. You are right. Great. Now leave. Grant's jaw clenched. I cannot, he said. Rosa's eyes hardened further. Yes, you can, she said. Get in your car, call your lawyer, hide in your penthouse. Grant's voice came out rough. They took my penthouse, he said. Silence hit the underpass. Eli's eyes narrowed, surprised. Rosa's mouth tightened. They took your penthouse, she repeated, skeptical. Grant nodded. Malcolm froze my accounts. He used my father's trust to trigger emergency measures. Security escorted me out. My devices are compromised. My old contacts are not safe. Bishop made a low sound, like he was considering. Family, Bishop murmured. Grant nodded again. Yes, he said. Mason spoke, voice flat. So you are broke, he said. Grant swallowed. Not broke, he admitted, but cut off from everything that makes money work. Eli scoffed. Welcome to normal, he muttered. Rosa's gaze stayed sharp. If your brother can freeze your accounts, he can freeze anything, she said. He can buy people. Double quotes. Grant's throat tightened. Yes, he said. That is why I need to move quietly. Bishop's eyes narrowed. Quietly toward what? He asked. Grant hesitated, then said the truth. Toward evidence, he replied. Toward the only thing that can stop him. Bishop's expression did not soften. Evidence does not stop men like that, he said. It slows them, sometimes. If the right eyes care. Grant nodded, accepting it. Rosa's posture remained rigid. And what happens when he comes for us? She demanded. When he sends those men into our shelter. When he threatens our staff. When kids get hurt. Double quotes. Grant's chest tightened. I will not let that happen, he said. Rosa laughed, sharp and bitter. You cannot stop rain, she said. Grant flinched. No, he admitted, but I can choose where it falls. Bishop watched him for a long beat, then looked at Eli. You trust him? Bishop asked, as if Eli had the final say. Eli's jaw tightened. I do not trust anyone, he said, but I saw those men. They were not normal. They were family men. That means they do not care who they hurt. Grant felt the words land like stones. Family men. Eli pointed at Grant's lip. And he did not run, Eli added. He stepped between me and them. Rosa's gaze flicked to Eli, then back to Grant, her voice lowered slightly, still hard. That does not make him good, she said. Eli's eyes narrowed. No, he said, but it makes him less useless. Grant swallowed, not sure whether to feel grateful or ashamed. Bishop nodded slowly, then tapped his cane against the concrete. Here is what happens, Bishop said. He does not stay here. Not under the bridge. Not overnight. Too exposed. Rose's jaw tightened. He goes to the shelter, she said. Bishop shook his head. Not yet, he replied. Shelter is for people who have nowhere. He has nowhere, yes. But he also has a target painted on his forehead. Rose's eyes narrowed. So what? She demanded. Bishop looked at Eli. There is a place, Bishop said. A back room above the old laundry on Westfield. It is quiet. It is dirty. But it has a lock. Eli's eyes flicked away. That place, Eli muttered. Grant listened carefully. He did not speak. He could feel how delicate this permission was. Bishop continued. He goes there, Bishop said. He rests. He does not bring anyone. He does not call anyone. He does not wander. And in the morning, we decide if he leaves. Rosa stared at Bishop, then at Grant. One night, she said coldly. That is all. Grant nodded. One night, he agreed. Mason stepped closer to Grant, towering. If you bring heat, Mason said, voice low, I will drag you out myself. Grant met his gaze. Understood, he replied. Eli rolled his eyes. He gets it, Eli muttered. He is scared. Grant's jaw tightened. He was scared. And he was also furious. But fear was the honest emotion right now. They moved quickly after that. Eli led again, Bishop and Mason flanking at a distance. Not close enough to look like a group, close enough to react. Rosa remained behind near the underpass, watching them go like she was memorizing Grant's posture, storing him in her mind as a risk. The walk to Westfield was quiet except for rain and traffic. Grant felt the city differently now, as if he had stepped behind the scenes of a world he used to own. He thought about the phrase Rosa had said, you people build towers that throw us out. Grant had signed deals like that. He had called it market forces. He had called it necessary. He had called it numbers. But numbers had faces. Eli's bruised face. Rosa's hard eyes. Bishop's cane. The back room above the laundry was small and smelled like detergent and damp wood. A single mattress lay on the floor. A chair. A small table. A window that looked out over an alley. Eli stood at the door and watched Grant enter. Do not bleed on the mattress, Eli said. Grant wiped his lip again. I will try, he said. Eli's gaze stayed sharp. If those men come, Eli said quietly, you do not open the door. Grant nodded. Okay, he said. Eli hesitated, then spoke in a lower voice, almost reluctant. And if you hear shouting, Eli added, you do not come running like a hero. Grant's throat tightened. Why? He asked. Eli's eyes narrowed. Because heroes get kids killed, Eli said. You do not understand street rules. Grant swallowed hard. Then teach me, he said. Eli stared at him for a long beat, then scoffed. Sleep, Eli muttered. You look like a ghost. Eli turned to leave, then paused at the threshold. Grant's voice came out quiet. Eli, he said. Eli did not turn back. What? He replied. Grant swallowed. Thank you, he said. Eli's shoulders tightened. He looked over his shoulder with irritation. Do not make it weird, he snapped. Then Eli disappeared down the stairs, footsteps fading into the noise of the laundry below. Grant stood in the small room alone. Rain tapped the window. The alley smelled like garbage and wet concrete. Grant sat on the edge of the mattress and finally let the exhaustion hit him. He had spent his life believing loneliness was safer than love. Tonight, a homeless boy had proved the opposite. And Grant knew with cold certainty that Malcolm would not stop. Malcolm would come again. The only question was how much damage Malcolm would do before Grant found a way to expose him. Grant lay down on the mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant hum of washing machines. For the first time in years, he had nowhere to run. And that meant he would have to fight. Grant slept in fragments. The room above the laundry never fully went quiet. Pipes ticked. Machines below thumped and spun. A delivery truck groaned somewhere in the alley. Every sound made Grant's body flinch awake like it expected hands on his arms again. He lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening, counting breaths, the way he used to count numbers on a trading screen. Only this time, the numbers did not soothe him. They reminded him how fragile he was without his usual armor. At some point near dawn, The rain softened into a steady drizzle. The window glass turned gray with morning light. Grant's head still ached where he'd been struck, but the pain had settled into something manageable, like a bruise you could not ignore, but could move through if you had to. He sat up slowly and pressed his fingers to his lip. The blood had dried. His shirt collar was stiff from rain. He did not look like the man who had once walked into meetings like a verdict. He looked like a man who had been pushed off a cliff and was still falling. When he stood and stepped toward the window, he saw the alley below. A stray cat picked through a torn bag of trash. A woman in a cheap raincoat smoked under the overhang, eyes empty. Life moved in these narrow spaces without pretending it was glamorous. Grant turned away. He needed a plan. The word plan used to mean spreadsheets, forecasts, and contingencies. Plans used to be about markets. Now the plan was about survival, and survival was not a line item. His pocket was empty of his phone. The night before had blurred, but Grant remembered the moment the security men at his tower took his devices. He remembered the polite smile of his own chief of security as he said, corporate calm in his voice, "These are company assets now." Sir, Grant had built a life where even his possessions could be reclassified in a sentence. He checked the room for anything useful. Nothing. No laptop. No paper. No outlets that felt safe. He did not know if the building had been compromised. He did not know if Malcolm's people tracked the location already. He heard footsteps on the stairs. Grant's body tensed instantly. The door opened without a knock. Eli stepped inside, damp hoodie, hair sticking to his forehead, carrying a paper cup of coffee and a plastic bag with something warm inside. He looked annoyed, like he resented the fact he had done something kind. Grant exhaled slowly. "Morning," he said. Eli scoffed. "It is not morning," he snapped. "It is survival time. Eat." Eli shoved the bag toward him. Inside was a cheap breakfast sandwich, the kind that came wrapped in wax paper, smelling like eggs and grease. The coffee looked like it had too much sugar. Grant's throat tightened again at the gesture. The second time hit harder than the first. Once was an accident. Twice was a pattern. "You did not have to," Grant began. Eli cut him off. "Yes, I did," he said. "If you pass out, you become my problem. Eat." Grant nodded and unwrapped the sandwich. He ate slowly, forcing his stomach to accept food. The coffee was too sweet, but the warmth steadied his hands. Eli watched him with sharp impatience. "Your face is still loud," Eli muttered. Grant swallowed. "I slept," he said. Eli rolled his eyes. "You slept like a dead rich guy," he replied. "Dead rich guys do not last here." Grant took a slow breath. "Where did you get this?" he asked, nodding at the food. Eli shrugged. "I know people," he said. "Do not make it a thing." Grant nodded. "Okay," he said. Eli's gaze flicked to the window, then back. "Bishop wants you downstairs," Eli said. Grant's chest tightened. "Now?" he asked. Eli nodded. "Now," he replied. "And you walk like you belong." Grant almost laughed at the idea. He did not belong anywhere anymore. But he stood and followed Eli down the narrow stairs that smelled like detergent and damp wood. The laundry was open early. A few people sat in plastic chairs, staring at spinning machines. A man fed quarters into a slot with shaking hands. A woman folded clothes with a blank expression. Nobody looked up at Grant for long. In this world, people did not stare at strangers unless there was danger. Eli led Grant out the back door into a narrow passage that ran behind the building. They cut through 2 streets and returned to the underpass. The fire barrels still burned, smaller now, smoke curling into the gray morning. Bishop stood near it, cane planted, eyes alert. Mason leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, scanning. Rosa was there too, standing with a clipboard, as if she had brought her authority with her. When Grant approached, Rosa's gaze sharpened like a knife. Bishop spoke first. "You are alive," Bishop said. Grant nodded. "Yes," he replied. Bishop's eyes narrowed. "You are being hunted," Bishop said. Grant swallowed. "Yes," he admitted. Bishop tapped his cane once on the concrete. "Then we talk," Bishop said. "Not about your feelings, about your problem." Grant nodded. He could feel how little patience these people had for his internal drama. Rosa stepped closer. I called in a favor, she said, voice cold. Someone who hears things. She's meeting us. Grant frowned slightly. Who? He asked. Rosa's eyes stayed hard. A journalist, she said, like the word itself was both hope and danger. Grant's stomach tightened. Media meant exposure. Exposure meant Malcolm would react. But media also meant leverage. The only reason Malcolm could control narratives was because he understood how silence worked. Bishop watched Grant carefully. Do you want truth? Bishop asked. Or do you want safety? Grant swallowed hard. The question landed heavy. He answered honestly. I want both, he said. Bishop shook his head slowly. Not today, he replied. Pick one first. Double quotes. Grant's jaw clenched. He thought of Jonah, a child he had not seen in 13 years, somewhere out there with a mother who hated him. He thought of the men at the hotel. He thought of Eli's bruises. Truth, Grant said finally. Rose's gaze narrowed as if she did not trust him. Truth is expensive, she said. Grant nodded. I have money, he replied. Rose's mouth twisted. Money is not the price, she snapped. The price is what you lose when you stop protecting your image. Grant felt the words hit like a blunt instrument. He had protected his image like it was his actual body. He had built it, polished it, defended it. His image had been his armor and his prison. Grant nodded again. Then I will lose it, he said. Eli's eyes narrowed. Do not say things you cannot do, Eli muttered. Grant met Eli's gaze. I can do it, Grant said quietly. I have already lost everything else. Bishop nodded once, satisfied. Good, he said. Then you listen. Bishop looked down the street and then back at Grant. Your brother's people will search for you where you used to be, Bishop said. Towers, hotels, airports, lawyers, Grant nodded. Bishop continued. They will not search under bridges at first, he said. Not because they are stupid, because they believe they are above it. Mason made a low sound of agreement. Bishop raised his cane slightly. So we use their pride against them, he said. Grant's chest tightened. How? He asked. Bishop's eyes sharpened. We do not hide forever, Bishop said. We hide long enough to choose when you appear. Grant understood. Visibility on their terms. Rosa checked her watch. She is late, she muttered. A few minutes later, a figure approached from the street, hood up, camera bag slung across her body, moving with quick confidence. She stopped near the underpass entrance and scanned like someone used to reading danger. When she saw Rosa, she walked closer. Rosa's voice stayed guarded. Tessa, she said. The woman pulled back her hood. She looked in her 30s, sharp eyes, hair tucked behind her ears, face tired in the way people looked when they had seen too much and kept going anyway. Tessa Hart, she said. Who is the rich problem? Rosa gestured to Grant. Tessa's eyes locked onto Grant, and her expression did not soften with awe. It tightened with suspicion. So it is you, Tessa said. Grant held her gaze. Yes, he replied. I assume you know who I am, Tessa snorted. Everyone knows, she said. You were a headline king. Now you are a headline cautionary tale. Grant swallowed. I did not ask to be, he said. Tessa's eyes flashed. No, she replied. You built it. Grant did not argue. She was not wrong. Bishop stepped forward slightly, voice calm. He says his brother is laundering through redevelopment, Bishop said. He says he has proof. If he is lying, we throw him out. If he is telling the truth, this city has a rot problem. Tessa's gaze stayed sharp. Proof, she repeated. Not vibes. Not a rich man's feelings. Proof, Grant nodded. I have documents, he said. Not on me. Hidden. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Where? She demanded. Grant hesitated. He did not trust easily, but he also knew trust could not be delayed forever. He spoke carefully. A notebook and copies, he said. My father's attorney used to keep handwritten transaction notes. My brother's people tried to destroy them. I recovered some. Tessa's expression shifted slightly. Interest, controlled. And why are you telling me? She asked, instead of going to the police. Mason laughed once, humorless. Police, he muttered. Grant's jaw tightened. Because my brother bought silence, Grant said. And because the police work slow. I need speed. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Speed gets people killed, she said. Grant swallowed. Yes, he admitted, but slow already killed people in my world. I just did not see it. Rose's face tightened at that, as if she hated the honesty. Tessa studied Grant for a long beat, then spoke. If you are real, she said, you understand that I will not protect you. Grant nodded. I am not asking for protection, he said. I am asking for exposure. Tessa's gaze sharpened. Exposure of what? She asked. Grant inhaled slowly. My brother, Grant said. The board, the trust, the redevelopment projects that displace people and wash money, the intimidation. Tessa's eyes stayed cold. And what do I get? She asked. Grant blinked. The story, he said. Tessa's mouth twisted. I have stories, she replied. I need impact. Bishop stepped in, voice calm. Impact is stopping men like Malcolm from buying the city, Bishop said. Tessa's eyes flicked to Bishop, then back to Grant. Then I need names, she said. I need dates. I need a paper trail. I need something that makes editors sweat and lawyers panic. Grant nodded. I can give you a start, he said. But not here. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Then where? She asked. Grant glanced at Eli, then at Bishop. Somewhere with cameras, Grant said quietly. Somewhere public enough that your presence is normal, but private enough to talk. Tessa considered. A diner, she said. Cheap, loud. People mind their own business. Rose's voice cut in, urgent. Not near the shelter, she said. No heat near the kids. Tessa nodded. Agreed, she said. Bishop tapped his cane again. We do this carefully, he said. Because if you bring wolves, they will bite the smallest. Grant swallowed. I understand, he said. Eli's eyes narrowed. Do you? He muttered. Or are you still thinking like a rich man? Grant looked at Eli and answered quietly. I am learning, he said. And I will keep learning. Eli's mouth tightened. Good, he said. Not warm, but not mocking either. They moved in a staggered pattern after that. Mason went first, scanning. Rosa left separately. Tessa walked with her hood up, blending. Eli stayed near Grant, like an irritated shadow, guiding him away from cameras and into busier streets where they could disappear in plain sight. At the diner, the air smelled like coffee and fried food. A neon sign buzzed softly. The waitress looked tired and did not care who sat in the corner booth. Tessa slid in first, placing her camera bag beside her. Eli sat on the outer edge, eyes watching the entrance. Grant sat facing the wall, posture tense. Tessa pulled out a small notebook and pen. She did not record yet. She did not trust devices in a story like this. Start at the beginning, she said. Grant took a slow breath. My father died 2 years ago, he said. Before he died, he created a trust. The trust held control and interest in our holdings. The trust was supposed to be split evenly between Malcolm and me, with conditions that prevented either of us from triggering a takeover without a neutral third-party review. Tessa's pen moved. Neutral third party, she repeated. Who? Grant's throat tightened. A man named Harold Wynne, Grant said. Old attorney, loyal to my father. He kept handwritten notes. He did not trust digital. He said it could be altered. Tessa's gaze sharpened. And he was right, she murmured. Grant nodded. Malcolm wanted control faster than the trust allowed, Grant continued. He began moving assets into subsidiaries under new names. He called it modernization. I called it laundering. Tessa's eyes stayed sharp. You have proof, she demanded. Grant nodded. Wynn's notes include transaction references, shell entities, and the names of intermediaries, he said. I have copies of those pages. Eli's jaw tightened. Where is the notebook? Eli asked, voice low. Grant glanced at him, surprised by the question. Hidden, Grant said. Eli's eyes narrowed. Hidden where? Eli pressed. Grant hesitated. He looked at Tessa. You are asking for everything, he said. Tessa's voice stayed calm. I am asking because if you die tomorrow, the story dies with you, she said. And then your brother wins. Double quotes. Grant swallowed hard. He spoke carefully. Bishop has the original, Grant said. Not the whole notebook, just the pages that matter. He keeps it because he understands hiding. Eli's eyes widened slightly, then tightened. Bishop, he muttered, as if he feared the weight of that responsibility. Tessa's pen paused. "That is smart," she said, "and dangerous." Grant nodded. "Yes," he replied. Tessa leaned forward, voice lower. "Why did you come to the shelter area?" she asked. "Why did you run toward the underpass instead of calling someone from your old world?" Grant's mouth tightened. "Because my old world is compromised," he said. "And because, for the first time, someone offered me help without a contract." Eli scoffed softly, but did not deny it. Tessa studied Grant for a beat, then wrote something down. She looked up again. "If I publish this," she said, "your brother will come harder." Grant nodded. "I know," he said. Tessa's eyes stayed sharp. "And if your brother comes harder," she continued, "people like Eli and Bishop and Rosa take the first hits. You understand that?" Grant's chest tightened. "Yes," he said. Tessa's voice turned firm. "Then your first job is not to save your image," she said. "Your first job is to keep the people around you alive." Grant swallowed hard. "Tell me how," he said. Tessa stared at him for a long beat. Then she spoke, slow and precise. "We choose the moment you appear," Tessa said. "Not in a tower, not in a hotel, in a place with cameras and witnesses. We create a public record that you are cooperating with an investigation. We pull in someone too big for your brother to buy easily." Grant's pulse spiked. "Federal," he said. Tessa nodded. "Or state attorney general," she said. "Someone who loves a headline about a billionaire family war." Eli's eyes narrowed. "You are using headlines," he muttered. Tessa looked at him. "Headlines are weapons," she replied. "The rich have been using them forever. Now we use them to protect the small." Grant felt the shape of the plan forming, heavy and risky. He thought of Malcolm's smile. Grant whispered, "He will retaliate." Tessa nodded. "Yes," she said, "which is why we relocate the vulnerable before we publish." Grant's chest tightened. "Marianne and Jonah," Grant said quietly. Eli's posture stiffened at Jonah's name. Tessa's eyes sharpened. "Jonah," she repeated. "Who is Jonah?" Grant's throat tightened. The name felt like a wound. Eli answered before Grant could. "A kid," Eli said, voice flat. "A kid who should not be in this." Tessa's gaze narrowed. "Then we keep him out," she said. "We move him first." Grant nodded, heart hammering. The plan was no longer about his company. It was about people. And Grant realized, with a hard twist of shame, that he had spent years acting like people were consequences, not the point. Now the point was a boy with a rock in his pocket and an old man with a cane under a bridge. Tessa closed her notebook. "We meet again tonight," she said. "Different location. You do not go back to the laundry room. Your brother's people are not stupid. They will start checking places beneath their pride once they get desperate." Grant's pulse spiked. "Where do I go?" he asked. Eli stared at him like he was annoyed by how dependent Grant had become. Bishop's voice came through Grant's memory like a warning. "We do survival." Grant nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. Tessa stood. "Eat, rest, and listen," she said. "If you want redemption, you will earn it the hard way. Not by speeches, by choosing people over power every time, even when it destroys you." Grant swallowed. "I understand," he said. Tessa's eyes stayed cold. "I hope you do," she replied. Eli slid out of the booth last, watching the door. As they stepped back into the gray drizzle, Grant felt the city watching again, not with awe, with hunger. Because somewhere out there, Malcolm Hargrove's machine was adjusting. It had failed once at the hotel. It had missed Grant under the bridge. It would not keep missing forever. And now Grant had something he had not had in years. Not security, not money, not a tower. He had allies with nothing to lose, which made them far more dangerous than any boardroom friend he had ever paid for. And Grant knew the next move would decide whether this story ended in redemption or blood. By late afternoon, the drizzle returned to real rain, the kind that made the city feel smaller and meaner, compressing everyone under umbrellas and overhangs, turning the streets into narrow corridors of impatience. Grant stayed off the main avenues, following Eli's instructions without arguing, because arguing was a luxury, and he had already spent too much of it in his life. Eli led him through a string of ordinary places that were invisible to people with money. A corner store with a dim, flickering sign. A public restroom in a transit station that smelled like bleach, trying to hide despair. A crowded cafe where nobody looked twice at two soaked figures in the back. They kept moving. Eli's logic was simple. Motion was safety. Stillness was an invitation. Grant tried to learn the pattern. Avoid predictable routes. Avoid corners where a black sedan could wait. Avoid wide sidewalks with no witnesses. Move in the middle of people. Not enough to be seen, enough to make violence inconvenient. But even with all of Eli's street intelligence, Grant could feel the pursuit tightening. It was not always visible. Sometimes it was a reflection in a window. Sometimes it was the same vehicle that appeared one street behind again and again, changing lanes too smoothly. Sometimes it was a man who held his phone too high, watching, not scrolling. Grant did not say it out loud at first, because he did not want to scare Eli. Then Eli spoke first. "They are closer," Eli muttered. Grant's jaw tightened. "Yes," he replied. Eli glanced at him sharply. "Do not do that," Eli said. Grant frowned. "Do what?" he asked. Eli's eyes narrowed. "Act like you are not scared," he snapped. "You are scared. Use it. Fear makes you pay attention." Grant swallowed. "Okay," he said quietly. Eli's shoulders stayed tense, but he moved faster, cutting through a covered market where vendors yelled over each other, selling fruit, cheap jewelry, knockoff bags. The smell of oranges and fried food hit Grant's senses hard. They slipped through an exit at the far end and emerged into a narrow side street with a row of closed storefronts. Eli stopped abruptly under an awning and looked both ways. Grant's pulse jumped. Eli's voice dropped. "We are not going back to the laundry," Eli said. Grant nodded. "Tessa said the same," he replied. Eli's eyes narrowed. "Tessa," he repeated, as if he did not like that Grant had spoken her name with familiarity. "She is trying to help," Grant said. Eli scoffed. "She is trying to win," he snapped. "Do not confuse those." Grant held his tongue. Eli's cynicism was not a flaw. It was armor. The kid had survived by assuming everyone had an angle. It was not paranoia. It was experience. Eli turned and started walking again. "Bishop picked a new place," he muttered. "Temporary. Quiet. Do not talk." Grant followed. They moved through a neighborhood that looked tired. Buildings with peeling paint. A playground with rust on the swings. A church with a cracked stone step. The city here did not pretend it was fine. As they approached the church, Grant saw Bishop standing near the side entrance, cane in hand, posture still as a statue. Mason lingered near the corner, watching traffic. Rosa was not visible, which usually meant she was doing something important. Eli slowed. "There," he muttered. Bishop nodded once when they reached him. "Inside," Bishop said simply. They slipped through the side door into a narrow hallway that smelled of old wood and candle wax. The air was warmer inside, thick with quiet. Bishop guided them to a small room near the back. Not a sanctuary, not a main office. A storage room with folding chairs stacked against the wall and a table that looked like it had been used for everything from bake sales to crisis meetings. Rosa stood near the table with her phone in her hand. Her face was rigid. The moment Grant stepped in, Rosa's eyes snapped to him. "You are late," she said. Grant swallowed. "We had to move," he replied. Rosa's voice was cold. "We always have to move," she snapped. "Because of people like you." Grant did not argue. The truth was too big to dodge. Tessa sat in the corner on a folding chair, notebook in her lap, eyes alert. She lifted her gaze to Grant and nodded once. No warmth. Mercer was not there. That worried Grant. Mercer's absence meant the legal part of the plan was still fragile. Bishop shut the door and leaned on his cane. "We talk fast," Bishop said. "Then we move." Tessa opened her notebook. "I want the timeline," she said to Grant. "Specific. Not dramatic. Specific." Grant took a slow breath. He was used to being the one who demanded precision. Now he had to deliver it. He started at the board meeting, the emergency clause, the trust restructuring. He named the law firm that Malcolm used, the shell subsidiaries, the redevelopment projects that had questionable transfers. He named 2 intermediaries who acted as consultants, but were really enforcers in suits. Tessa's pen moved constantly. Eli leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes watching everyone as if he expected betrayal mid-sentence. Rosa paced slightly near the table, jaw clenched. Bishop listened, still as stone, but his eyes tracked every name like he was mapping a threat. When Grant finished, Tessa looked up. "Okay," she said. "It is real enough to publish, but I will not publish tonight." Grant's chest tightened. "Why?" he asked. Tessa's eyes were hard. "Because you are not the only target," she said. Rosa's voice cut in. "She is right," Rosa snapped. "If the article drops before Jonah is safe, you are signing his death warrant." Grant's stomach turned. Eli's posture stiffened at Jonah's name, and Grant felt it like a warning bell. Grant's voice came out rough. "Where are they?" Grant asked, unable to stop himself. Rosa's eyes burned. "Not your question," she said. Grant swallowed hard. "I need to know if they are safe," he said. Bishop's voice was calm. "You want to know because you feel guilty," Bishop said. "Guilt is not protection." Grant flinched. Bishop continued, still calm. "Protection is action, quiet action. You want the boy safe, you do not chase him. You help create distance." Grant's hands clenched. "What do I do?" he asked. Tessa leaned forward. "You become bait," she said. Grant's stomach dropped. Eli's eyes narrowed. "What?" Eli snapped. Tessa's voice stayed flat. "Your brother is hunting you," she said. "If you disappear into the shadows with homeless people, he will search these shadows. He will step on everyone to find you. But if you become visible in a controlled way, you pull his attention back to you, away from Jonah and Marianne." Grant's chest tightened. "Visible how?" he asked. Tessa's gaze sharpened. "We do not give him your location," she said. "We give the public your existence. We announce that you are cooperating with an inquiry." Rosa's eyes narrowed. "With who?" she demanded. Tessa exhaled. "The state attorney general's office," she said. "Mercer has a contact, but he is cautious. He wants more documentation before he steps into the light." Grant's jaw clenched. "We have documentation," he said. Bishop tapped his cane once. "We have pieces," Bishop corrected. "Not enough to kill the snake. Enough to start a fire." Grant swallowed. Eli's voice cut in. "If he becomes bait," Eli said, looking at Tessa, "then those men will grab him again." Tessa nodded. "Yes," she said. "That is why we choose the place. We choose the time. We choose the watcher's double quotes." Grant's head throbbed again. The idea of deliberately stepping into danger made his stomach twist. But Jonah was a child. Marianne had carried 13 years of fear and anger alone. Eli had already bled because of Grant. Bishop and Rosa were already risking their fragile safety net for someone they despised. Grant could not keep taking without paying. "I will do it," Grant said quietly. Silence hit the room. Eli's eyes snapped to Grant, startled. "Do not be dramatic," Eli muttered. Grant met Eli's gaze. "It is not dramatic," Grant said. "It is necessary." Rosa's jaw clenched. "Necessary for who?" she demanded. "For you to feel better." Grant shook his head. "For Jonah," he said. "And for everyone my brother steps on." Tessa watched him closely. "If you do this," she said, "you do it with discipline, not with ego." Grant nodded. "Okay," he said. Bishop's voice stayed calm. "Then we need to move Jonah tonight," he said. Grant's chest tightened. "How?" he asked. Rosa's gaze burned. "Not your job," she snapped. "Your job is to stay alive." Grant swallowed, the words tasting bitter. He hated being told to stay away, but he understood. His presence was a magnet for violence. Eli's eyes narrowed. "Where is Marianne?" Eli asked. Rosa's expression softened slightly at the mention of Marianne, but only slightly. "Close," she said. "Close enough to move, far enough to breathe." Eli's jaw tightened. "And Jonah," he pressed. Rosa looked at Eli, and at Bishop, then at Tessa. She finally answered with a tight voice. "He is with her," she said. "For now, double quotes." Grant exhaled shakily. "For now was not safe. For now was a thread." Tessa checked her phone, then looked up. "We have a new issue," she said. The words made the room tense instantly. Bishop's eyes sharpened. "Speak," he said. Tessa's voice dropped. A sedan has been circling near the shelter, she said. Not obvious, but consistent. Different plates than last night. Rose's face went pale with anger. They are looking, she snapped. Grant felt cold dread sink into his stomach. Because of me, he whispered. Rose's eyes flashed. Yes, she said. Because of you. Grant's hands clenched. Then I need to leave, he said. Bishop shook his head sharply. No, he said. If you run right now, you lead them straight through our neighborhood. Grant's jaw clenched. Then what? He demanded, voice cracking. Bishop's eyes stayed steady. Then you go loud, Bishop said. You pull them away. Tessa nodded. We accelerate, she said. Eli's posture tightened. Accelerate what? He snapped. Tessa looked at him. The visibility plan, she said. We do not wait for Mercer to feel comfortable. We force the timeline. Grant's chest tightened. How? He asked. Tessa's gaze was sharp. Mercer has a contact inside the state attorney general's office, she said. If we deliver copies of the notes in a way that creates an official record, he cannot pretend he never saw them. We drop them into the system. Bishop's eyes narrowed. System can be bought, he said. Tessa nodded. Yes, she replied. So we deliver them with witnesses. Rose's jaw clenched. Witnesses get hurt, she said. Tessa leaned forward. And silence gets children hurt, she replied. Grant felt the truth in both statements, like pressure on his chest. Eli's eyes darted to the door. We are sitting in one place too long, he muttered. Bishop tapped his cane again. We move, he said. Now. Rosa grabbed her bag, already moving toward the hallway. Tessa stood quickly, stuffing her notebook into her coat. Grant, she said, you come with me. Grant's pulse spiked. Where? He asked. Tessa's eyes were cold. Somewhere with cameras and official doors, she said. A government building. If they grab you there, it becomes a problem they cannot quietly erase. Grant swallowed hard. Eli stepped forward. I am coming, Eli said. Tessa looked at him. No, she replied immediately. Eli's jaw clenched. Why? He demanded. Tessa's voice stayed flat. Because if you come, you become leverage, she said. You stay with Bishop. You keep the notes safe. You keep yourself alive. Eli's eyes burned with anger and fear. I am not a baby, he snapped. Bishop's voice cut in, quiet but firm. Eli, he said. Eli looked at Bishop, jaw tight. Bishop's gaze was steady. You are not a baby, he said. You are a soldier. Soldiers follow the plan. Eli's mouth tightened. He hated being told what to do. But he respected Bishop in a way he did not respect anyone else. Eli muttered something under his breath and stepped back. Grant looked at Eli, throat tight. Stay safe, Grant said quietly. Eli glared at him. You first, Eli snapped. Grant nodded. Bishop opened the door and motioned Grant and Tessa out first. Mason went ahead to scout, then signaled with a subtle hand movement. They moved in staggered steps through side streets, keeping distance between them, never looking like a group. The rain thickened again, turning streetlights into blurred halos. Grant felt the pursuit in his bones now. Malcolm's machine would sense movement. The sedan near the shelter was proof. The wolves were sniffing at the edges of the community. At a busy intersection, Tessa leaned in slightly and spoke without looking at Grant. Listen, she said. Your brother is going to strike at whatever you care about. Grant's chest tightened. Jonah, he whispered. Tessa's voice stayed firm. Yes, she said. So you cannot care in a way that makes him visible. You care by being strategic, Grant swallowed. They boarded a train, blending into commuters. Grant kept his head low, watching reflections in the glass. Tessa stood near the door, posture calm. She looked like a normal woman going home after work. That was her weapon. At the next stop, they exited and walked quickly toward the government building Mercer had described. The building was lit bright, security cameras obvious, guards at the entrance. Grant's heart hammered. This was the opposite of hiding. This was stepping into light with bruises still fresh. Tessa stopped at the base of the steps and looked at Grant for the first time in minutes. Her eyes were tired and sharp. Do not try to be a hero, she said. Be useful, Grant nodded once. Okay, he replied. They climbed the steps. Inside, The air smelled like disinfectant and paperwork. Guards watched them, suspicious. Tessa walked straight to the desk and asked for Mercer's contact by name. The clerk frowned, then made a call. Grant stood beside Tessa, feeling every camera in the lobby watching him. He felt exposed, raw. He also felt, for the first time, like he was doing something real. Because behind him, under a bridge and in a shelter, people were trying to move a child to safety. And Grant's job was to pull the wolves away from that child. The clerk hung up and motioned them toward a side hallway. "Wait there," the clerk said. Tessa and Grant walked to a row of chairs. Tessa sat, posture composed. Grant sat beside her, hands clasped, jaw tight. He heard the distant echo of footsteps. He did not know if they were Mercer's contact or Malcolm's men arriving to drag him into a car again. Grant's pulse pounded. Tessa leaned in slightly, voice low. "If someone comes through that door, and they are not official," she said, "you do exactly what I say." Grant swallowed. "Okay," he said. The hallway door opened. A man stepped in wearing a plain suit and carrying a folder. He looked ordinary. He looked like paperwork, but his eyes were alert. He scanned the lobby, then locked onto Grant. His expression tightened with recognition. Grant's stomach turned. The man walked toward them and spoke quietly. "Mr. Hargrove," he said, "I am Daniel Mercer. You have made my day very complicated." Grant stared at him. Tessa leaned back, satisfied. "Good," she said. "Complicated days are the only days that change anything." Mercer's gaze flicked toward the lobby cameras, then back. "Show me what you have," he said. Grant's hands shook slightly as he realized the next phase had begun. The moment the system could no longer pretend not to see. And somewhere out there, Malcolm Hargrove would feel the shift. He would not like it. He would retaliate. And the night was not over. Daniel Mercer did not look like the savior type. He looked like the kind of man who measured life in case files, deadlines, and consequences. Plain suit, practical shoes, tired eyes. The folder in his hand was thick, but his posture carried more weight than the paper ever could. He stood under bright fluorescent lights, glancing up at the security cameras like he respected their presence and resented the need for them. Grant rose slowly from the chair, careful not to draw unnecessary attention. His head still throbbed, his lips still split, and the faint bruise near his temple made him look less like a headline and more like a warning. Mercer nodded toward the side hallway. "Not here," he said quietly. "Come." Tessa stood too, moving with calm precision. She carried herself like someone who had learned that fear was useful, but panic was a luxury she could not afford. They followed Mercer down the hallway to a small conference room with a glass window and a single table. A sign on the door read "Authorized personnel only." Mercer scanned a key card and the lock clicked open. Inside, the room smelled like dry paper and cold coffee. An old printer sat in the corner like it had been there since the last century. A digital clock on the wall ticked with stubborn indifference. Mercer shut the door and turned to them. "I have about 20 minutes before someone asks why I took a journalist into a restricted room," he said. His eyes flicked to Tessa. "No offense." Tessa's mouth tightened. "I am not offended," she replied. "I am useful." Mercer's eyes narrowed slightly, then shifted to Grant. "And you," Mercer said. "You are either useful or you are a public relations fire." Grant swallowed. "I want to be useful," he said. Mercer tapped the folder in his hand against the table once. "Then start talking," he said, "and do not give me speeches." Grant nodded, throat tight. "I recovered handwritten notes from my father's attorney," Grant said. "Transaction references, shell entities, intermediaries, and a pattern of asset transfers linked to redevelopment projects. My brother used an emergency clause to remove me. He is trying to silence me." Mercer watched Grant carefully. "Where are the notes?" Mercer asked. Grant glanced at Tessa and answered honestly. "Not with me," he said. "They are held by someone I trust more than myself right now." Mercer's eyes sharpened. "Who?" he demanded. Grant hesitated and said, "Bishop." Mercer blinked. "Bishop," he repeated, confused. Tessa answered for him. "An older man," she said, "lives under a bridge, keeps people alive, Has a cane and a brain. Mercer's jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to dismiss it, but he did not. He had enough experience to know that street networks moved faster than official ones. Why is a homeless man holding your evidence? Mercer asked, voice tight. Grant swallowed. Because my brother's people do not search under bridges until they get desperate, Grant said. And because Bishop understands hiding. Mercer stared at him, then glanced at Tessa. This is unbelievable, he muttered. Tessa leaned forward. The unbelievable part is not where the notes are, she said. The unbelievable part is that you have a chance to stop a powerful man before he disappears into donations and lawyers. Mercer's eyes flicked to her. You are not wrong, he admitted. Then his gaze returned to Grant. Do you understand? Mercer said. That if I move on this without enough, I get buried. Grant nodded. Yes, he said. Mercer leaned back slightly. And do you also understand, Mercer continued, that if you are lying, you are putting everyone around you in danger. Double quotes. Grant's chest tightened. I am not lying, he said. Mercer held him in a stare for a long beat, then nodded once. All right, he said. Give me what you can give me right now. Double quotes. Grant exhaled slowly. He began naming details, law firm names, dates of board meetings, the clause language, the subsidiary names Malcolm used, the redevelopment projects that had shown suspicious internal transfers, the intermediaries who acted like consultants, but moved like enforcers. Mercer wrote fast, his pen scratching paper like it was cutting through fog. Tessa watched, eyes alert. When Grant finished, Mercer paused. This is something, he said, not enough to arrest your brother today. Enough to start looking hard at the people around him. Double quotes. Grant's stomach tightened. He will sacrifice them, Grant said quietly. Mercer nodded. Yes, he replied. People like him always do. Tessa leaned forward. Then you need to secure the notes, she said. You need them inside the system. Mercer's eyes narrowed. If the notes go into the system, he said, your brother's attorneys will fight for access. They will smear everyone. They will hunt the source. Grant's jaw clenched. They are already hunting, he said. Mercer tapped his pen against his paper. We can do this two ways, he said. 1, we run quiet, slow, and safe. 2, we go loud and accept collateral risk. Tessa's expression hardened. Collateral risk is already happening, she said. Mercer's gaze sharpened. I need you to be careful with your language, he warned. You are not in a newsroom. You are in a system that can destroy lives with a signature. Tessa's eyes stayed cold. Then let it destroy the right lives, she replied. Grant felt the pressure building. Systems, headlines, evidence, children. He could not forget. Jonah. The image of Jonah as a small boy, eyes wide, asking for a man to show up, haunted Grant like a ghost. Grant cleared his throat. My brother will retaliate against a child, Grant said quietly. Mercer's eyes narrowed. What child? He asked. Grant froze. He realized he had spoken Jonah into this room without intending to. Tessa's gaze snapped to Grant, warning. Grant swallowed. A child connected to me, he said carefully. A child my brother can use as leverage. Mercer's jaw tightened. Is the child safe? He asked. Grant hesitated, then said the truth. Not guaranteed, he replied. Mercer leaned forward sharply. Then that is your highest priority, Mercer said. Not your brother, not your company. The child. Grant's throat tightened. We are trying to move in tonight, Grant said. Mercer's gaze hardened. Who is we? He demanded. Grant hesitated again, then answered, because lies would only poison this. Rosa, he said. Bishop, Eli, Tessa. Mercer exhaled, frustration flashing. You have pulled half the street into this, Mercer said. Tessa's voice stayed calm. The street was already in it, she said. Your offices just did not notice. Mercer's jaw clenched. He looked at Grant again. Listen, Mercer said. I can help, but I need you alive, and I need your evidence in my hands. Grant nodded. Tell me what to do, he said. Mercer looked at the wall clock. First, Mercer said, we get you out of this building without creating a spectacle. Second, we coordinate a safe transfer of the notes from Bishop to us. Third, We establish a formal cooperation record, so your brother's people cannot simply make you vanish without consequences. Tessa's eyes narrowed. And the child, she said. Mercer's expression hardened. I cannot officially move a child based on your guilt, he said, but I can connect you to a protective services contact if there is a credible threat. Grant's chest tightened. There is, he said. Mercer held his gaze. Then give me credible, he replied. Names, actions, evidence, not fear. Grant swallowed. He sent men to grab me, Grant said. They hurt me publicly. They saw Eli. They can find him. They can trace him. Mercer nodded once. That is credible, he said. We will treat it like a threat. Tessa stood, checking the hallway through the glass window. We need to go, she said. Mercer nodded. Yes, he agreed. We move. They exited the conference room and walked through the hallway, with Mercer leading, posture calm, as if everything was normal. Tessa stayed slightly behind Grant, scanning reflections. Grant forced his shoulders to loosen, to look like he belonged. In the lobby, Mercer spoke to the clerk in a low voice. The clerk nodded and gestured toward a side exit. They slipped out into the rain without using the main doors. Outside, the street was slick and crowded with rush hour movement. Cars hissed by. Umbrellas bobbed like dark mushrooms. Mercer led them across the sidewalk to an unmarked vehicle parked in a loading zone. Grant's body tensed. Unmarked cars had become nightmares. Mercer noticed. Not theirs, Mercer said sharply. Mine. Grant swallowed and got in. Inside the vehicle, the air smelled like cheap air freshener and stress. Mercer drove, eyes scanning mirrors, taking turns that avoided main streets. Tessa sat in the back, phone in her hand, texting quickly. Grant watched the city blur past through rain-streaked glass. He tried to breathe. Then Tessa's phone buzzed. Her face shifted instantly. Grant felt cold dread before she spoke. Rosa says the sedan near the shelter is back, Tessa said quietly, and it is not circling anymore. It is parked. Mercer's jaw clenched. Address, he said immediately. Tessa hesitated, then read it out. Mercer swore under his breath and accelerated slightly. Grant's chest tightened. They are going to hit the shelter, Grant whispered. Mercer's voice turned sharp. Not if we get there first, he replied. Tessa's eyes hardened. Rosa will move the kids, she said. But they might not have time. Grant's hands clenched. He felt the old instinct rise. The instinct to rush, to fight, to control. He looked at Mercer. I need to go, Grant said. Mercer snapped. No, you need to stay in the car. Grant's jaw tightened. If they find me near the shelter, they will hurt everyone, Grant said. Mercer nodded grimly. Yes, he replied. Which is why you will not go near the shelter. We will intercept. Tessa looked at Grant, voice cold. You going near those kids is like hanging a target on the door, she said. Grant swallowed hard, shame burning. The car turned quickly into a neighborhood with narrower streets. The glow of the shelter's street lamp appeared ahead, hazy through rain. Mercer slowed and parked a block away, behind a row of cars. We walk the rest, Mercer said. He reached into the glove box and pulled out a small badge case. He showed it to Grant and Tessa. Stay behind me, he ordered. They moved down the sidewalk, rain hitting their faces. Grant's heart hammered. Every shadow looked like a threat. As they approached the shelter, Grant saw the sedan. Black, parked at the curb, engine idling. Two men sat inside. They looked up as Mercer approached. Mercer lifted his badge case slightly, visible under the streetlight. The driver's posture stiffened. Mercer's voice cut through the rain. Daniel Mercer, he called, firm and loud enough to carry. State Attorney General's office. Step out of the vehicle. The men did not step out. The passenger leaned toward the driver, speaking quickly. Mercer's jaw clenched. He stepped closer, rain dripping off his coat. Grant stayed behind Mercer, hands clenched, trying not to move like prey. Tessa stood slightly to Mercer's other side, phone ready, recording quietly. Mercer spoke again, sharper. Step out now, he repeated, or you will be detained for obstruction. The driver finally opened the door slowly. He stepped out, hands visible, posture calm. He looked like the type Grant had seen last night. Not a cop, not a thug, a professional threat. The driver smiled slightly. "Evening," he said. Mercer's eyes stayed hard. "Who are you?" Mercer demanded. The man's smile widened faintly. "Just a man waiting," he replied. Mercer's jaw clenched. "Waiting for what?" Mercer asked. The man's eyes flicked past Mercer, landing on Grant for half a second. Recognition. Grant's stomach dropped. The man's smile did not change. "You know," he said calmly. Mercer's posture stiffened. He saw the glance. He understood. Mercer stepped closer, voice low. "I am going to ask you one more time," he said. "Leave, now." The man's expression hardened slightly. "You do not understand," he said softly. "This is family business." Grant felt the words land like poison again. Family business. Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Not tonight," Mercer said. The man's gaze stayed on Mercer, cold. "Then tonight becomes public," the man said, voice flat. Tessa's phone lifted slightly, capturing the exchange. Mercer's jaw clenched. Then he raised his voice deliberately. "You are being recorded," he said loudly. "If you approach this shelter, you will be arrested." The man's mouth twitched as if amused. "Arrested," he repeated. He glanced at the passenger, then back at Mercer. "We are leaving," he said calmly. "For now." He turned and slid back into the sedan. The passenger followed quickly. The car pulled away, slow, controlled, like a promise. Grant stood shaking, rain mixing with sweat. Mercer exhaled sharply. "That was a probe," Mercer said. "They were testing response time." Tessa's face tightened. "And they got an answer," she said. Rosa burst out of the shelter doorway then, eyes blazing, rain hitting her face. She looked at Mercer, then at Grant, and her expression hardened further. "You brought him here," Rosa snapped. Grant flinched. "I did not choose," he began. Rosa cut him off. "It does not matter," she said. "They saw him. It will come harder." Mercer stepped forward, voice firm. "Rosa," he said, "I am with the Attorney General's office. If you have credible threats, we can escalate protective resources." Rosa stared at him, skeptical. "Resources," she repeated. "Like what?" "A pamphlet." Mercer's jaw tightened. "Like patrol coverage," he said. "Like protective services." Rosa's face stayed hard. "We need the child moved," she said. Grant's chest tightened. "Jonah." Mercer looked at Grant. "Now we have credible," Mercer said quietly. "Those men recognized you. They are watching the shelter. That is enough to justify action." Tessa glanced toward the street, eyes sharp. "Not enough time," she said. Eli appeared behind Rosa, face tense, eyes wide. He spotted Grant and immediately stiffened. "You did this," Eli snapped at Grant. Grant's throat tightened. "I am trying to stop it," he said quietly. Eli's jaw clenched. "Trying gets people hurt," Eli hissed. Bishop stepped into the doorway behind them, cane in hand, face calm and heavy. Bishop's eyes met Grant's, and his voice came low. "It is time," he said. Grant swallowed. "Time for what?" he asked. Bishop raised his cane slightly, indicating the street behind them. "Time for you to go loud," he said. "Because they are already here." Double quotes. Grant's stomach turned. Mercer's jaw tightened. "We move the child now," Mercer said. "Tonight. No delays." Rosa nodded once, decisive. "Marianne is ready," she said. Grant's chest tightened painfully. Jonah's safety had become the center of the storm. And Grant understood, with brutal clarity, that Malcolm's next strike would not be on paper. It would be personal. It would be a child. And the only way to stop it was to accept that there was no clean path out. Only a path where Grant chose, again and again, to put people ahead of power, even if it destroyed him. The rain turned colder as night settled in, the kind of cold that slid under your collar and made your bones feel exposed. The shelter's front room was lit warm, but looked tense, like the walls themselves could sense danger. Volunteers moved faster than usual. Voices stayed low. Children were guided away from windows. A man near the entrance kept looking outside with the jittery posture of someone who had seen violence arrive quietly before. Grant stood near the back wall, hands clenched, trying to shrink his presence. He knew his face had become a signal. He knew the sedan had recognized him. He knew Malcolm's men would remember the street lamp, the doorway, the shape of the shelter like hunters mapping territory. Mercer spoke with Rosa in quick, clipped phrases, like a man trying to force a slow system to move at the speed of an emergency. Tessa stayed near the side hallway, phone in hand, eyes scanning, recording short clips and sending them somewhere safe. Eli paced like a trapped animal, jaw clenched, shoulders tight. Bishop sat on a chair near the wall, cane across his lap, posture calm. He looked like the only person in the room who had accepted that fear was useless if you did not turn it into decisions. Rosa stepped toward Grant suddenly, her expression sharp enough to cut. "Do not look at the kids," she snapped. Grant flinched. "I am not," he said. Rosa's eyes burned. "Yes, you are," she replied. "You are looking like you want to adopt them with guilt." "Stop," Grant swallowed. "I only want them safe," he said quietly. Rosa's mouth twisted. "Then do what we tell you," she said, "and stop acting like your feelings are the mission." The words landed hard. They were deserved. Grant nodded once. "Okay," he said. Mercer approached then, face tight. "We have a plan," he said, voice low. "It is not perfect, but it is better than waiting." Eli stopped pacing and snapped, "What plan?" Mercer looked at Eli, then at Bishop, then back at Grant. "We move Marianne and Jonah first," Mercer said. "Unmarked, quiet, different route than anyone expects. The shelter will stay on high alert. We will request patrol coverage, but that will not arrive fast enough to matter tonight." Tessa nodded once, already understanding. Grant's chest tightened at Jonah's name. Marianne and Jonah felt like a wound he could not touch without bleeding. Rosa's eyes narrowed. "You promised you would not bring this here," she said to Mercer. Mercer's jaw clenched. "I did not bring it," he replied. "It found you." Rosa's gaze flicked to Grant. "Because of him," she said flatly. Grant swallowed. "Yes," he whispered. Eli's eyes flashed. "So why is he still here?" Eli demanded. Bishop's voice came calm. "Because wolves chase what they want," Bishop said. "And tonight they want him. If he leaves alone, they chase him through our streets. If he stays hidden, they search harder and step on everyone. If he goes loud, he pulls them away." Eli's jaw clenched. "Going loud gets him killed," Eli snapped. Bishop's gaze stayed steady. "Maybe," he said, "but staying quiet gets children killed." Silence hit the room like a weight. Grant felt his stomach twist as he realized Bishop was right. Malcolm would not stop. Malcolm did not play for dignity. He played for control. Control was his oxygen. Mercer spoke again, firm. "Grant," he said, "you need to accept that your brother will try to take you alive. Not because he loves you, because he wants you silent." Grant's jaw tightened. "Yes," he said. Mercer leaned in slightly. "If he can force you into a private room, he can force a signature," Mercer said. "He can force a confession. He can force a story. You understand?" Grant nodded, cold sweat under his collar. Tessa's voice cut in. "So we make sure he cannot take Grant quietly," she said. Mercer nodded. "Correct," he replied. Eli's eyes narrowed. "How?" he demanded. Tessa looked at Eli. "We create public visibility," she said. "Not a press conference. Not a spectacle. A controlled record." Rosa's expression tightened. "Where?" she asked. Mercer's eyes sharpened. "A hospital," he said. "Grant's injuries are documented. Official. Medical record. Cameras. Security. We pair that with a formal cooperation statement filed. Tonight." Grant's chest tightened. "You want me in a hospital," he said. Mercer nodded. "Yes," he replied. "And we do it now." Eli's mouth tightened. "He is not that hurt," Eli muttered. Mercer's gaze hardened. "He was assaulted by private operatives," Mercer said. "That is hurt enough. We document it because documentation makes you harder to erase." Grant swallowed. Bishop tapped his cane once. "That pulls wolves," he said. Mercer nodded. "Yes," he replied. "And while wolves pull toward the hospital, Marianne moves away." Grant's heart pounded. The plan was ugly, but it was real. Rosa spoke, voice low, decisive. "Marianne is not coming inside," she said. "We meet her at the back alley in 10 minutes. Tessa nodded. "I will go," she said. Mercer shook his head. "No," he said. "You go with Grant to the hospital. You are a witness. You will keep him honest and keep cameras present without announcing. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Then who goes to Marianne? She asked. Rose's gaze flicked to Eli and Bishop. Bishop's expression did not change. I go, Bishop said. Eli's eyes widened. No, Eli snapped. You are old. Bishop looked at him calmly. That is why I go, Bishop said. No one suspects an old man with a cane moving like he belongs. Eli's jaw clenched. I am going, Eli said. Rose's voice cut like steel. No, she said immediately. If this goes wrong, you become the leverage. You stay. Eli's eyes burned. I am not a baby, he hissed again. Bishop's gaze stayed steady. Soldiers follow the plan, Bishop repeated. Eli's face tightened, fighting rage and fear. Finally, Eli muttered, fine, like it tasted bad. Grant's throat tightened. He had never had anyone argue about protecting him before. His old world protected him when it was profitable. This was different. This was personal. This was costly. Rosa checked her phone. Time, she said. Everyone moved at once. Rosa disappeared into the hallway to coordinate volunteers and keep the shelter quiet. Mason went outside to watch the street. Bishop rose slowly, cane tapping as he moved toward the back door. Eli stayed near the entrance, posture rigid, eyes fixed outward. Mercer gestured to Grant and Tessa. We go, he said. Grant's legs felt heavy as he followed Mercer out the front, keeping his head down, moving quickly into the rain. The unmarked vehicle waited a block away. They slid in fast. Tessa sat in the back with her phone. Mercer drove, eyes scanning mirrors constantly. Grant sat in the passenger seat, heart pounding. The city passed by in wet streaks. Streetlights blurred. Cars hissed. Grant watched every reflection, every shadow. Mercer's voice stayed controlled. When we reached the hospital, he said, you speak plainly. You were assaulted. You fear further harm. You are cooperating with an investigation. Grant swallowed. Okay, he said. Tessa's voice came from the back, sharp. And you do not try to protect your brother with vague language, she said. You name the risk. Grant's jaw tightened. Yes, he said. Mercer glanced at him briefly. This will start a fire, Mercer warned. Grant swallowed hard. Good, he replied quietly. I am done freezing. They pulled into the hospital's emergency entrance. The bright lights hit Grant's eyes like an interrogation. People moved fast. Nurses in scrubs. Security guards near the door. Cameras visible. Mercer guided them inside quickly. We keep this simple, Mercer said. We do not cause a scene. We just exist where we cannot be quietly erased. At the triage desk, Grant explained the assault. The hit to his head, the bruises, the split lip. The nurse asked questions. Mercer stayed close. Tessa sat nearby, phone angled, recording discreetly. Grant hated it. He hated being visible. He hated looking weak. He hated being in a system that could label him unstable the way Malcolm had labeled him. But he forced himself to remain calm, because the goal was not comfort. It was protection. The nurse examined him and ordered imaging, given the head trauma. Grant was taken down a hallway toward radiology. Security remained nearby, alerted by Mercer's badge and his quiet insistence that there was a credible threat. As Grant lay back on a hospital bed, fluorescent light above him, he stared at a white ceiling that looked nothing like a penthouse ceiling and felt something shift again. He had spent years thinking sterile environments meant safety, but safety had never been about surfaces. It had always been about people. Tessa's phone buzzed. Grant's stomach tightened. Tessa looked at the screen, and her face stiffened. Mercer noticed instantly. What? He demanded. Tessa swallowed. Rosa says someone tried to enter the shelter, she said quietly. Not the sedan man, a different man. Asking questions, pretending to be city services. Grant's chest tightened with cold dread. Malcolm's people, he whispered. Mercer's jaw clenched. They are probing multiple points, he said. They are searching. Tessa's voice stayed tight. Bishop has not checked in, she added. Grant's heart slammed. He tried to sit up, but a nurse pushed him gently back. Stay still, she ordered. Grant clenched his jaw, helpless. Mercer stepped aside and made a call, voice low, urgent. Tessa typed quickly, sending messages. Grant lay there staring at the ceiling, rage and fear mixing like poison. For the first time, he could not run. He could not buy. He could not command. All he could do was wait for a message about whether a child was safe. Minutes stretched like hours. Then Tessa's phone buzzed again. Her eyes flicked across the screen. Her shoulders loosened a fraction. "Bishop moved them," she said quietly. "Marianne and Jonah are in transit. They are not at the shelter." Grant's chest loosened so hard he almost gasped. Mercer exhaled sharply. "Good," he said. "Keep them moving." Tessa nodded. "Rosa says Eli is furious, but staying put," she added. Grant swallowed, picturing Eli pacing like a caged animal, wanting to fight the whole world with his bare hands. The imaging finished. Grant was guided back toward a curtained bay. A doctor explained he had a concussion risk, that he needed rest and monitoring. Grant nodded, barely listening, because the fight was not in his skull. It was in his life. Mercer returned with paperwork. "We file your cooperation statement tonight," Mercer said. "You will sign in my presence." "Witnessed." Grant's jaw tightened. "Yes," he said. Tessa's eyes stayed sharp. "And tomorrow," she said, "I publish the first piece." "Not everything. Enough to create pressure." Mercer nodded. "Carefully," he said. Grant swallowed. "My brother will come for me," he said. Mercer's gaze stayed steady. "Yes," he replied. "But he will have to do it where people can see." Grant signed the cooperation statement with a hand that trembled slightly. The signature felt like a door closing behind him. No retreat. No return to old illusions. Later, when the hospital quieted and Grant was moved to an observation room, Mercer stood near the window, watching rain slide down the glass. "You know what he will do next," Mercer said quietly. Grant's voice came out rough. "He will try to destroy my credibility," he replied. Mercer nodded. "Yes," he said. "He will paint you unstable, dangerous, addicted, anything that makes you easy to dismiss." Grant's jaw clenched. "I was never unstable," Grant said. Mercer's gaze turned sharp. "Stability is not what they mean," he said. "They mean controllable." Grant swallowed hard. Tessa sat in a chair near the bed, arms crossed, eyes tired. "You are not controllable anymore," she said flatly. Grant stared at the ceiling again. "No," he whispered. His phone was still gone. His old world still locked him out. He did not know where Jonah was, only that Jonah was moving away. Grant's chest hurt with the weight of it. Then Mercer's phone buzzed. Mercer checked it, expression tightening. "What?" Grant asked, pulse spiking again. Mercer hesitated, then spoke. "We have an address," he said. "One of the intermediaries you named. We can raid tonight." Grant's jaw tightened. "Do it," he said. Mercer nodded. "We will," he replied. "And it will pull your brother's network into the light." Tessa's eyes sharpened. "That is what this is," she murmured. "A light," Grant swallowed. "Lights draw insects," he said quietly. Tessa's mouth tightened. "And lights also help people find the door," she replied. Grant turned his head slightly, staring at the curtain that separated him from other patients. He heard a child coughing softly somewhere down the hall. He heard a nurse laugh quietly at a joke. Fatigue wrapped around it. Human life, ordinary, fragile. He had lived above this for years, pretending he did not need it. Now it was all he wanted to protect. A couple hours later, Grant received a message through Tessa, not direct, nothing traceable. A simple text from Rosa to Tessa that Tessa read out loud. "Marianne says Jonah is safe for now. She says you do not get the location. She says do the right thing, even if she never forgives you." Grant closed his eyes. The words felt like being slapped and hugged at the same time. He exhaled shakily. "Tell her yes," Grant whispered. Tessa nodded once and typed. Grant lay back, head throbbing, heart heavy, but for the first time in years, his loneliness was not empty. It was connected to something real. He had a purpose now, not the kind of purpose that made money, the kind that made a man human. Outside the hospital, the rain continued to fall. Somewhere in the city, Malcolm Hargrove would feel the shift. His brother would rage. His brother would retaliate. His brother would try to crush anyone near Grant. But now Grant was not alone in a tower. He was surrounded by the very people his old world had ignored, and that made him far more dangerous than he had ever been when he was untouchable. Because untouchable men did not fight for anyone but themselves. And for the first time, Grant Hargrove was fighting for someone else. For a homeless boy who had offered him fries. For an old man with a cane who understood hiding better than any security team. For a woman named Rosa who refused to let children become collateral. For a journalist who used truth like a blade. And for a boy named Jonah who might never forgive him, but who deserved a life that was not built on fear. Grant stared at the ceiling and made a silent promise that did not need applause. He would tell the truth. He would stay alive. He would keep choosing people over power, even if it cost him everything.